The fossil record provided humanity with one of the most extraordinary windows into the deep past. Layered with ancient sedimentary rocks, sealed away through immense realms of time, lay the skeletal remains of creatures that once roamed Earth long before the first humans ever appeared. To hold such a fossil in hand was to touch an object that predated entire continents, entire mountain ranges, entire oceans. It was to grasp a remnant of life from worlds that seemed almost alien in their strangeness. These extinct animals had been gone for millions, sometimes hundreds of millions of years. Yet each fossil testified that they were once real flesh and blood organisms. They lived, hunted, bred, fed, struggled, and died. And sometimes, if fate allowed, the manner of their struggle was recorded directly in their bones. For while fossils ordinarily captured only anatomy, in rare instances they captured something even more intimate. Evidence of injury, trauma, disease, or violent encounters, traces of suffering that scientists termed paleopathologies. Such preserved injuries were deeply significant, for they revealed not only that prehistoric life had been harsh and dangerous, but also that it had been full of behavior. Bite marks, fractures, infections, and deformities were not just biological curiosities. They were historical records of combat, predation, accidents, competition, and survival. They formed a bridge of empathy across unimaginable spans of time. To look upon a shattered bone that once caused pain to a creature was to recognize that ancient animals were not abstractions but living beings that endured hardship no less real than the struggles of modern organisms. Among the vast literature of paleopathology, 5 cases stood out as some of the most severe, astonishing, and horrifying known from the fossil record. They demonstrated that prehistoric worlds were neither idyllic nor peaceful. They were rugged, brutal landscapes where predator and prey pushed one another to the limits, and where even the most formidable animals could fall victim to violence. Chapter 1, the decapitated Tanystropheus. The first case emerged from the Triassic period, roughly 242 million years ago. The region that would one day straddle the Swiss-Italian border had, in deep time, been a shallow tropical archipelago as the supercontinent Pangaea broke apart. In these warm waters lived one of the strangest reptiles ever described, Tanystropheus. Tanystropheus was remarkable for a single anatomical feature, its neck. Composed of only 13 elongated vertebrae, the neck stretched to nearly 3 times the length of the body. The head at the end was comparatively small, equipped with interlocking conical teeth arranged in a trap-like configuration ideal for seizing fish and cephalopods. Although it resembled the later plesiosaurs in its overall profile, Tanystropheus was not related to them. It was a unique lineage unto itself, the Tanystrophiidae. For decades, paleontologists debated whether the creature lived in water, on land, or both. The immense length of the neck seemed ill-suited for terrestrial locomotion, yet the body lacked the flipper-like limbs associated with fully aquatic life. Over time, the prevailing interpretation settled on a semi-aquatic lifestyle. The reptile likely hunted in shallow water, extending its neck outward as a kind of living fishing rod. Yet such a neck carried an obvious vulnerability. Predators of the Triassic seas included nothosaurs and ichthyosaurs, large marine reptiles with powerful jaws. It was not difficult to imagine a long, narrow neck becoming a target. In 2023, 2 Tanystropheus specimens were described that confirmed exactly that. Both consisted of skulls attached to partial necks, preserved beautifully until the vertebral series ended abruptly. The break was not clean. The terminal vertebrae were splintered and gouged, bearing puncture marks where sharp teeth had pierced bone with crushing force. These were not injuries sustained long before death. They were catastrophic blows that severed the head from the remainder of the body. In one individual, belonging to the species Tanystropheus hydroides, 10 cervical vertebrae were preserved before the neck terminated violently. The punctures suggested the attacker struck from above and behind, grasping the neck in its jaws and biting repeatedly until it was removed entirely. In the other specimen, attributed to Tanystropheus longobardicus, 7 vertebrae survived before the neck ended, with similar bite damage concentrated around the 5th and 7th vertebrae. The pattern indicated the predator repositioned its jaws mid-attack in order to finish the job. While the precise attacker could not be named, the overwhelming likelihood was that a large nothosaur or ichthyosaur had inflicted the wounds. These marine reptiles prowled the same waters and attained sizes sufficient to overpower Tanystropheus. More important than the identity of the predator, though, was the implication. Decapitation was not a one-off occurrence. Two independent victims indicated a recurring predatory strategy. The long neck, once an evolutionary innovation for feeding, became a fatal weakness when confronted with the jaws of Triassic hunters. To behold the fossil was to confront a vivid scene. The sudden violence of an attack, the snapping of bone, and the separation of head from body in the chaos of prehistoric waters. The fossil record did not merely show death. It revealed the manner of death with brutal clarity. Chapter 2, the skull-piercing combat of Smilodon. The second case emerged far later in Earth's history, within the Pleistocene epoch. The continents had reshaped, the climate oscillated between ice ages, and the world teemed with large mammals. Among the dominant predators of the Americas was Smilodon, the famed saber-toothed cat. Smilodon populator, the South American species, possessed the longest canines of the genus, extending up to 28 centimeters in extreme specimens. Although popularly referred to as saber-toothed tigers, they were not tigers at all, nor closely related to them. Smilodon was a machaerodont, an extinct saber-toothed lineage distinct from modern Felides. In 2019, two skulls of Smilodon populator were described that bore enormous elliptical punctures on their upper surfaces, located between the eye sockets. When matched against the sabers of other Smilodon individuals, the fit was uncanny: same shape, same dimensions, same curvature. The conclusion was striking. Smilodon had stabbed its own kind through the skull. The implications for behavior were profound. Many modern felids engaged in violent intraspecific combat to defend territory, acquire mates, or establish dominance. The enormous punctures in the Smilodon skulls suggested similar behaviors had unfolded in the Pleistocene, but with far deadlier weaponry. A strike from the saber teeth of another Smilodon could penetrate deep into cranial bone. In one specimen, the puncture exhibited no signs of healing, indicating an instant kill in which the canine likely pierced the brain. The second specimen told an even more remarkable story. In this skull, the margins of the puncture displayed new bone growth, indicating the victim survived for months or even years after being stabbed through the head. It continued to feed, breathe, and live despite a catastrophic injury that would have killed virtually any modern mammal. Yet such resilience carried a cost. Survival in the Pleistocene depended not merely on endurance but also on strength, mobility, and dominance. A Smilodon weakened or partially disabled by such trauma risked starvation or defeat in later conflicts. The fossil record thus revealed a species whose great evolutionary innovation, its immense sabers, could be turned inward upon itself. The powerful jaws that subdued giant herbivores such as bison and ground sloths were also used as lethal weapons in conflicts between rivals. The Pleistocene world, dynamic and dramatic, bore witness to predators that were not only hunters but duelists. Chapter 3, the amputated tail of Massospondylus. The third case came from the early Jurassic of South Africa and concerned a dinosaur named Massospondylus. This early sauropodomorph was not yet the colossal giant that its later relatives would become, but it was nonetheless a large, long-necked animal that browsed on vegetation and walked on sturdy limbs. Reaching approximately 6 meters in length, it was a sizable herbivore for its time and an important member of its ecosystem. In 2013, a Massospondylus specimen was described containing 25 vertebrae encompassing much of the dorsal column and the anterior portion of the tail. Yet at the posterior extent of the sequence, something extraordinary was observed. The final 3 caudal vertebrae were fused together into a single mass, with dense, irregular bone growth binding them unevenly. Beyond these 3, there were no further vertebrae. The remainder of the tail, roughly half its original length, was gone. The pathology indicated that the tail had been violently amputated. But the fossil also revealed that the dinosaur survived the ordeal long enough for extensive healing to occur. The fused vertebrae formed a protective bony cap, sealing the wound and preventing further infection. This required not merely biological resilience but time, weeks, months, perhaps years of post-injury life. Modern crocodilians provided a useful analog. Surveys of Nile crocodiles revealed that more than 15% of individuals exhibited partial tail loss from combat or predation attempts. Strong immune systems allowed them to survive despite immense tissue trauma. American alligators were even capable of partial tail regeneration, though not to the intricate extent seen in lizards. The Massospondylus likely suffered the injury during a predatory attack. The most plausible culprit was Decapitated regenti, the largest known theropod in the same formation. Decapitated reached over 6 meters in length, possessed formidable jaws, and would have easily overpowered a juvenile or subadult sauropodomorph. In such a confrontation, the predator may have seized the herbivore's tail as it fled, tearing away the appendage in the struggle. The Massospondylus escaped, but carried the traumatic mark of the encounter for the rest of its life. This fossil revealed a narrative of survival rather than instantaneous demise. The dinosaur did not perish immediately under the teeth of its attacker. It lived on despite losing half its tail, showing that prehistoric ecosystems were not defined solely by death but also by endurance. A world of predators created a world of survivors. Chapter for the mutilated forelimbs of Dilophosaurus. The fourth case concerned yet another early Jurassic dinosaur, but one with a much different ecological role. Dilophosaurus weatherilli, a lightweight but powerful theropod that served as the apex predator of its ecosystem. Known for the paired crests adorning its skull, Dilophosaurus measured between 5 and 7 meters in length and preyed on smaller vertebrates with swift jaws and agile forelimbs. The specimen at the center of this pathology study was no ordinary individual. It was the holotype, the specimen by which the species was first defined and described. Unearthed in Arizona in 1942, it had been studied for decades before a renewed anatomical examination in 2016 revealed something astonishing. A total of 8 bones of the forelimbs and shoulder girdle displayed injuries. Fractures, twisted shafts, deformed phalanges, and bony abscesses dot on the left side. The scapula and radius exhibited healed fractures. The ulna and one of the manual phalanges bore clusters of abnormal bony growth indicative of chronic infection or localized inflammation. On the right side, the humerus was rotated unnaturally, as though the animal had been forced to compensate for pain in the opposite limb, while the radius and third manual digit displayed irregular, tumor-like expansions of bone. Every one of these injuries bore signs of healing. This Dilophosaurus did not die from trauma immediately. It persisted for months or years afterward, but the damage carried consequences. The third digit of the right hand, so badly distorted that proper flexion was impossible, would have severely hindered the dinosaur's ability to grasp struggling prey. Combined with chronic pain in the left limb, the animal likely relied increasingly on its jaws alone to capture food. Such adaptation mirrored what had been observed in modern birds, which developed compensatory behaviors when a limb became functionally compromised. But for a large theropod that subsisted on active predation, any reduction in manual ability could tip the balance between survival and starvation. The pathology suggested that Dilophosaurus lived a violent and demanding existence. It hunted powerful prey that fought back. It may have battled rivals. It sustained injuries and kept moving. The fossil was not only a record of anatomy, but a biography etched in bone. Chapter 5: The Brutal Battles of the Mosasaurs. The fifth and final case transported us to the late Cretaceous oceans, where the seas swarmed with predatory reptiles known as mosasaurs. These massive marine squamates were close relatives of modern lizards and snakes, yet they inhabited an ecological role akin to that of sharks or killer whales. Among the largest was Tylosaurus. An 85-million-year-old skull of Tylosaurus, recovered from Kansas, bore heavy bite damage across the top of the cranium, near the orbital region, and along the right lower jaw. The injuries were catastrophic and displayed no signs of healing, indicating the attack had been fatal. The neck vertebrae were found at an unnatural angle relative to the skull, suggesting that the predator not only bit its victim but snapped its neck, severing the spinal cord at its base. The only predators capable of inflicting such damage on a 5-meter-long Tylosaurus were larger Tylosaurus individuals. Based on the spacing and depth of the punctures, the attacker may have been 7 meters in length, a giant of its genus. The force and direction of the bite suggested an ambush from below and slightly to the left. The victim's head was torqued to the right as teeth punctured both the top of the skull and the lower jaw in a twisting motion. The fossil captured a moment of predation with cinematic precision. Other mosasaur fossils bore similar evidence. In one case, teeth belonging to Mosasaurus missouriensis were found embedded between cervical vertebrae of another mosasaur. In another remarkable specimen from southern Alberta, A Mosasaurus jaw preserved healed lesions and a tooth from another mosasaur lodged within it. The victim had survived the attack, swimming onward with metal spike-like dental fragments embedded in its face. These battles underscored that mosasaurs were not only apex predators but cannibals and rivals. Their world was not a tranquil marine realm but a deadly seascape where even the mightiest reptiles became prey. The fossil record revealed a cycle of violence, wherein predators confronted one another in struggles for dominance, territory, or food. The meaning of fossilized injury taken together, these 5 cases provided a profound lens into the nature of prehistoric life. They revealed that ecosystems across time were structured not solely by evolutionary innovation but by conflict, misfortune, and resilience. Every injury bore witness to a moment, a bite, a fall, a pursuit, a clash that defined the fate of an individual creature. The paleopathologies also clarified a crucial point. Extinct animals were not static icons as often portrayed in museums or literature. They were dynamic beings subject to risk. A decapitated Tanystropheus proved that anatomical specialization incurred vulnerability. A skull-punctured Smilodon demonstrated that sexual competition could be lethal. A tail-torn Massospondylus defied its attacker and lived on despite catastrophic injury. A mutilated Dilophosaurus revealed the cost of a lifetime of predation. And a shattered Tylosaurus skull showed that being an apex predator provided no guarantee of safety. These fossils also reminded us that the ancient world was rich with behavior. The record of deep time was not only a catalog of forms. It was a record of battles, hunts, escapes, infections, recoveries, and survival. The fossil record, for all its incompleteness, preserved stories. The animals that inhabited deep time did not simply exist. They lived. As paleontologists continued to unearth new specimens and as technology advanced, through CT scanning, histology, and 3D reconstruction, the ability to read these stories grew ever sharper. Bones became documents, pathologies became narratives, and fossils became biographies of vanished worlds. Millions of years after the last mosasaur prowled the seas, after the last Smilodon prowled the plains, after the last Tanystropheus stretched its neck above a Triassic shoreline, humans pieced together these tales through fragments of shattered skeletons. And in doing so, we discovered that the deep past, for all its alien character, was populated by animals whose struggles resonated through time. They fought, they suffered, they endured, and through the silent testimony of their bones, they still spoke.